Hello everyone, my name is Taha Nasir. I am in my seventh semester studying cybersecurity. Now, ever since the beginning of my university days, I've always had an interest in digital forensics. However, recently I've decided to start out with penetration testing instead. I'm an absolute beginner. I have never really done much red teaming before, especially not pen testing. I have done some binary exploitation, uh, like just some basic stuff. So I've always had a passion for forensics in general, like fingerprint, DNA forensics, etc., etc. So when I chose cybersecurity as a field, I thought, why shouldn't I just go for digital forensics, right? However, now I've started to regret that decision because there aren't a lot of entry-level jobs available for cybersecurity, for digital forensics specialists to be specific. So ever since a couple of weeks ago, I've decided to start learning penetration testing. Get some junior certifications. I mean, not junior. I'm going directly for the big guns. So I've been doing the Hack the Box penetration testing job path because I asked a friend who's done CPTS and he's pretty good at penetration testing. He told me that I should just do that job path and then directly give test for CPTS. So that's why I'm currently studying the modules on the penetration tester job path. So far I've only done the first two modules. The purpose of this, hopefully this becomes a series, will be to revise my concepts, everything I've learned in the previous module or the previous two modules. This could be a weekly series, could be a bi-weekly series, depends on how long it takes me to finish a module. Secondly, it will be to help anyone who's also getting into penetration testing to figure out what are the things they need to learn. Like, it's such a wide field. So I feel like by following this video series, if anyone else is learning, is trying to get into penetration testing, they can follow the steps I take, but not, do things exactly as I do. This is not going to be a definitive, follow this to pass your OSCP guide or video series or whatever. This is just to give you guys and give anyone watching an idea that what are the things they should study. And lastly, it's to hold myself accountable. Now, I'm an extremely lazy guy. I tend to doom scroll a lot on Instagram, Reels, YouTube Shorts, etc. So, if I think that okay, I have to make this video, maybe I get motivated to actually get up and study for my CPTS. So I'm gonna talk about the things I have learned so far. In the two modules that I've done. These are the very first modules. They're very easy stuff. Most of the things I already knew about, like some basic terminologies that are involved with penetration testing, the phases of penetration testing: enumeration, vulnerability assessment, exploitation, post-exploitation, pre-risk, etc. So these are a lot of the things that I already knew, and there was a lot of theory in the first module especially. It was a drag to get through. So the main thing that I actually think is very helpful that I learned from this is how useful tmux can be, or how versatile it can be. I mean, useful I don't think is the right word because it is just a terminal, right? Your basic Linux shell or terminal is also a terminal. But tmux can be very versatile if you use it a lot, you get used to it. The more you get used to it, the more easier it'll be for you to navigate and conduct your overall pen tests or something like that, but it's pretty helpful. So secondly, the main thing we learned was basic enumeration. The later on modules go into more detail into enumeration, vulnerability assessment, etc. But these early modules just give you a surface level knowledge so that you can get an idea for getting into in the later modules. So for board discovery, again, we used Nmap. Shocker, I know. And the main attack surface in these labs or practice labs was a web application that was hosted on port 80, which is the default port for HTTP. Now, this isn't something that's always going to be the case. Sometimes maybe you get port 8080 that's hosting the web application. It differs. So Yeah, you should definitely scan all the ports. That's again something that this module talks about and gives a lot of importance to. Secondly, once you've discovered that a web application is running on port 80 or whichever other port, you can go ahead and enumerate the directories of the web application. Uh, for this, you can use tools like GoBuster or FeroxBuster, and the word list that you will use will be one of the discovery web content sec list word list. That's the one you can use. Those can be found on GitHub. Maybe I'll drop a link below. You know. So the next step we go from there is, after we've got a list of available directories on the web application, we can go ahead and manually enumerate them and try to see if an admin user exists or not, or any type of user, right? So we're gonna try and get access to their account, like whether it's a user account or an admin account on the web application. That's because the directories or pages that these accounts have access to, especially the admin account, they're usually much less secure than the part of the website that's completely for the public, right? Like those parts are much more secure as compared to what the admin has access to, because I mean, come on, what's admin gonna do with it, right? Until the account gets breached and voila. So that's the main reason we try to get the admin account credentials for the web application. And once you've discovered let's say we found a version number for some specific plugin that's being used, right? So we can go look up its version number on Google or Metasploit or Searchsploit, and you look for whatever CVE is available for that version. Somehow, at this point, we're trying to get an RC back to the server, right? So once we figured that out, this is the vulnerability assessment part, right? After we figured out what vulnerability actually exists on the system, we can go ahead and exploit it. For example, the latest lab that I did as part of the small test they had at the end of module 2. The vulnerability there was in get simple CMS. The version being used was, I believe, 3.3.15. That's the version. That was the version of get simple that was being used, and it has a reverse RC vulnerability, where you can change the actual code of the plugins they're using, and simply put in a code for a reverse shell. Listen on your port using netcat and curl to that file that you've edited, and now you'll basically have a reverse shell on your netcat tab, right? So after you get an initial foothold on the server, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to enumerate again. You will be enumerating a lot, trust me. So at this point, you're going to try to find some way of escalating to the root of the server, right? So for this, there are a lot of ways that you can do this, but the two most basic ways that I've been taught so far in this module, is using sudo-l. What this does is it lists all the binaries that can be used by other users who are not root, but with root privileges. So let's say there is a script called monitor.sh. It allows you to monitor the health of the server. Now, this script can be run by any user with sudo permissions. So now what you can do is alter the contents of the script, add a reverse shell code at the bottom of it that gives you reverse shell to the root, run the script, and now you'll have the root shell. So it's by exploiting simple stuff like this that you can escalate your privileges. linpiece.sh is another amazing script that lets you enumerate the server to see what vectors of privilege escalation may or may not exist. So this is all that we've learned so far from these modules. Going forward, I'm going to try to upload videos after I complete either one module or two modules. I'll see how I go about that. So this is all so far. Hopefully you guys stick with me through this journey. Hopefully I stick through to this journey, right? So hopefully we get to see each other more.